Good day everyone. My name is Angeli Arcasosola from Section Charlie. My reaction video about Module 1, Special Criminal Investigation. Special Criminal Investigation is consisting of special investigative techniques. It concentrates more on physical evidence. Its collections handling concentrates more on physical evidence. In coordination with the crime laboratory special crime investigation. What are the responsibilities of special crime investigator? A special investigator gather and examine financial records as well as conduct background check to find as well as the due and useful information. They prepared reports on findings to show their clients. They might send evidence to be analyzed through a variety of laboratory tests. The most important of suspect is one of the most important functions of criminal investigation. The purpose of investigation is to explore in detail the allegation, to examine the evidence in depth, and to determine specifically whether academic research misconduct has been committed and if so the responsible person of the seriousness of the misconduct. Special crime investigation is a special study of modern techniques in the investigation of serious and specific crimes, including murder, homicide, rape, abortion, robbery, arson, kidnapping, blackmail, carnapping, and criminal negligence. The emphasis is on physical evidence rather than an extrajudicial confession. The purpose of criminal investigation is to collecting information or evidence. First is determine if a crime has been committed. Second, identify the perpetrator. Third, apprehend the perpetrator. Last is to provide evidence to support a conviction in court. Types of offenders and approaches to be used in dealing with them. There are two offenders and approaches to how to deal the crime. First is emotional offenders have a greater sense of morality. They easily remorse over what they have done. The best approach in interrogating this type of offender is the sympathetic approach. Second is non-emotional offenders normally do not feel any guilt, so that the best way to interrogate them is through the factual analysis approach. That is by reasoning with the subject and letting know that his guilt has already been or will soon be established. There are three types of shadowing employed depending upon the objective of the surveillance. First is low steal, raw shadowing, close steal. 5. Tactics. The subject should be kept aware that he is being shadowed. The investigator should be inconspicuous. He should not be detected looking directly at the subject. He should shift from the left to right, never remaining for long directly behind the subject. Both sides of the street should be used. If the tail, he should request immediate removal from the statement. Note: the investigator must maintain a note or log containing a chronological record of the activities of both investigator and the subject. Roping and undercover work. It is a form of investigation in which the investigator assumes a different and unofficial identity or a story in order to obtain information. Arrest of undercover agent. If the police arrest an investigator, he must act in accordance with his orders. Next is the preparation and supervision of discrete surveillance. Familiarize participating operatives with the case. Use sketches, photos, and maps in the briefing. Make a physical description of the subjects. Anticipate contingencies that the areas plan what to do. Ready coins for bus or jeepney fare and for making phone calls. Determine excess and having them covered. Bear in mind that need to secure the search warrant on short notice. Ready materials for recording surveillance. Pre-arrange signals. Maintain contact among the participants. Rotate the participants and apportion their distances. Consider the possibility of counter-surveillance. Choosing proper equipment that I read. Equipment include motor vehicles, boats, binoculars, camera, radio equipment, handcuffs, containers for evidence, strip or newlate, and other materials with disguising motor vehicles day or night time, firearms, tear gas, or etc. Second is interrogation of suspect whose guilt is definite or reasonably certain. Maintain an attitude that shows that you are sure of yourself when you conclude the suspect is needed guilty. Don't be very friendly with the subject and do not offer a handshake. At it outside, accuse the subject of lying. If he reacts with anger, this usually indicates innocence. But if he remains calm, you can generally conclude that your suspicion of guilt confirm. Interruption of questioning by the subject may indicate innocence. Silence is equated with guilt. Do not allow the subject to repeatedly deny his guilt. Assume the object is guilty and proceed to ask why he is committed the act. Second to the last is when interrogating a big shot, it may be useful to lower his status by addressing him by his first name instead of using a title of respect. Last is remember that one who is trained in criminal interrogation is easier to question than an ordinary criminal since he is less confident in himself as liar. B. The subject should be made aware of the fact that the interrogator knows information indicating his guilt and that interrogator is not merely fishing for evidence. C. Let the subject know that he is showing signs of deception, some of which are first is pulsation of the carotid neck artery, excessive activity of the Adam's apple. 3. Avoiding the eyes of the interrogator, swinging one leg over the other foot, wiggling, wringing of the hands, tapping fingers, picking, fingernails, etc. Dryness of the mouth. So kabali, mo na siya ang kanang timailhan nga naglay ang suspect. Next, 3. Interrogation of suspect whose guilt is uncertain. Ask the subject if he knows he being questioned. Ask the subject to relate all he knows about the crime, the victim, and the possible suspect. Obtain from the subject detailed information about his activities before, during, and after occurrence under investigation. This is a good method of testing the validity of the subject. D. Where certain facts suggestive of the subject's guilt are known, ask him about him rather casually as through the real facts were not already known. To give the subject an opportunity to lie, his answer will furnish a very good indication of his possible guilt or innocence, and if he is guilty, his position becomes very vulnerable when confronted the facts possessed by interrogator. A. At various intervals, ask the subject certain pertinent question in a manner which implies that the correct answer are already known. F. Refer to some not existing incriminating evidence to determine whether the subject will attempt to explain it. If he does not, that is indication of guilt. G. Ask the subject whether he ever thought about committing the offense or one similar to it. If the subject admits he had thought about committing it, this fact is suggestive of his guilt. In thief cases, if the suspect offers to the recitation, the fact is indicated of guilt. Second to the last is ask the subject whether he is willing to take a lie detector test. The innocent person will almost always immediately agree to take practically any test to prove his innocence, whereas the guilt person is more prone to refuse to take the test or to find excuses for not taking it or for backing out of his commitment to take it. Last is the subject who tells the interrogator, "Alright, I told you what you want but I didn't do it," is in all probability guilty. Standards methods of recording investigative data. First, photograph, sketching crime scenes, written notes what you have seen and observed, developing and lifting fingerprints found at the crime scene, gathering physical evidence, plaster cuts, tape record of sounds, videotape recording of object, and written statements of the subjects and the witnesses. Scientific examination of real evidence. The crime scene search. Processing and secure a crime scene. Processing a crime scene includes the application of diligent and careful methods by an investigator, policeman to recognize identity, to preserve, collect facts and items to evidentiary value that may access in instructing that which actually occurred. The crime scene is the area surrounding the place where the crime occurred. The processing of the area at the scene includes all direct traces of the crime, and this is determined by the time of crime committed and the place where the act occurred. Second is the protecting the crime scene and the evidence. Successful crime scene processing depends upon the policeman's or the investigator skill in recognizing and collecting facts and items of value as evidence, and upon his ability to protect, preserve, and later to represent this in a logical manner. This requires making careful and detailed notes and sketches, using the correct procedures in taking photographs of the scene, taking written statement and the transcribing verbal statements of the witnesses, suspects, and marking and preservation of collected physical object of evidentiary nature. Next is the laboratory examination of object and substances located usually at the same crime. Objects and substances needed examination in some cases are carried intentionally or unintentionally by suspect from the crime scene. There are two investigators' notebook. First, purpose, and the second is recording notes. I read the meaning of purpose. Considering the mass of details and the number of cases, which in some instances an investigator is handling, it is very possible that he might forget some details. Many of details associated with the investigation, while not essential to the report, might become points of interest to the court when the same is brought to trial. Second is the recording notes. The data of the investigation should be recorded in a complete, accurate, and legible fashion so that in the event another investigation is required to assume the responsibility for the investigation, we can make intelligent use of the notebook. Last is the custodial investigation and interrogation. It is the skillful questioning of a suspect or he who still witness to divulge information of the crime being investigated. It must be remembered, however, the police investigators cannot learn proper interrogation merely by reading books. The success of interrogation depends on its legality topic, physical insight, and the appearance. That is our topic for today. The basic, the special criminal investigation. Surveillance. Surveillance is conducted to prevent a crime, to obtain evidence of a crime, to obtain evidence or wrongful action in a civil suit, to document an individual's location, to document activities on or around a specific location or building, to obtain information to be used in an interrogation, to gather an information.